says she was looking for a bald guy with tattoos who drove a motorcycle. She wanted something completely different from Cody, and that sounded sexy to her. Aspen comes in and says, "Well, is there anything you want to talk about before Truly gets here?" And Christine's like, "No, is there something you want to tell me before Truly gets here?" "I want you to remember this before Truly gets here" comment. We're beating around the bush, and Christine finally spits out what was everyone's first impression of David. So obviously David has met the kids. McKelty says that she likes him. She let him hold the babies, and she doesn't let just anyone do that. Tony says, "I like how you survived," and McKelty says, "I don't know if we want to talk about that." And Christine says, "I know, because his wife died." So David's youngest was 6 when it happened. Tony says his wife died and left him with 8 kids, and he didn't get addicted to gambling and drugs. That is such a weird thing to say. Like, I get his sentiment behind it, but it was so oddly specific. He says he made it and came out the other side with decent kids. For some added context, David's wife did take her own life, and there is information out there about the circumstances that I'm not going to repeat. Feel free to look it up for yourself, but it's not great. Peyton, Isabel, and Truly are at Christine's now. We find out at this point Christine and David have been together for 1 month. A month. She says, "I'm 50. I know what I want. I know what I had before. This feels totally different. I dated enough guys this past year to know what I'm looking for." Tony says, "You have." And she says, "I consider 8 a lot. I will say only one guy besides David made it to a second date." McKelty says, "Truly, can I ask you a question and get an honest answer from you?" She asks what she thinks about David, and Truly says, "He's funny and I get along with him." Props to McKelty for asking Truly how she felt about David and kind of including her in this combo, even though they seemingly wanted to have it before she got there. Tony says he reminds me of Cody, and sometimes I think Tony says stuff just to freak people out. Tony calls David a boomer, and they're like, "No, he's not a boomer. He's 59. And a producer tells Christine that David is in fact a boomer. And Christine's like, "Oh God, David's a boomer and so is my mom." For reference, David is about 8 years older than Christine. Cody boasts about being Gen X, calling it the feral generation. He says they had music videos and fashion and Duran Duran. We've still got fashion and music videos, but go off, Cody. And also, out of all the 80s bands, Duran Duran is the one you're gonna brag on. I don't know. In a confessional, Christine says it's important to her to know how her kids feel about David, but however they feel is not gonna end her relationship with David. Okay. Christine singles out Isabel and asks her what her initial reaction to David was, because out of all the kids, Christine thinks she's taking it the hardest. For some reason, Tony agrees, and Christine says Isabel is the most protective over her. Isabel is kind of laughing in this exasperated way and says, "I'm not even if I did have a bad feeling about David, or I wanted her to change something in the relationship, she wouldn't do it. I think it was just a really inappropriate thing for Christine to say, especially in front of her minor child. In a confessional, Peyton says they are moving fast, but this is basically Mom's first boyfriend, so it's understandable. He says that he just wants to see her be happy, and she seems to be very happy. So now Christine says they have said the magical words to each other. It only took us a week. Well, a week and a day. And she says it like she's dropping a bomb, and then she goes like, oh, and tries to high-five McKelty, who is sitting there in like genuine shock. She did not return the high five. She asks who said it first, and turns out it was David. And I'm sorry, this is insane. I understand when you know, but a week, especially with David saying it first, it just seems like a big red flag to me. Christine says they were over at David's. His family was all around. It was a little bit of craziness, and he kind of pulled her in close to him, and they were cuddling, and she felt calm for the first time in her life. She said that she could feel his heart racing, and hers were racing, and then and she said, "No, you aren't." I don't know if she meant that Cody said that as a statement or a question. It sounded like a statement, and if that's the case, like, that's horrible. So David is pulling up at Christine's. They've been dating for a month at this point. Christine answers the door with a "Hi, baby," and she's wearing a leather skirt and biting her bottom lip. Her loins are on fire for this man. She introduces us to David in a confessional. She thinks the term boyfriend is dumb because they're adults, and David said, "I'm your burrito," and Christine says, "Okay, that's probably inappropriate." Why? What am I missing here, Christine? They agree that they're soulmates, and he calls her his unicorn. He tells us that he has 8 kids. His wife passed away 12 years ago. He dated for a while, but then gave up on it until Christine messaged him on a dating site. Christine says that she asked him if he was going to friend zone her on the 3rd date, and he said she was aggressive. Then he says that she was desperate for affection, and she laughs and said, "I was." I don't disagree with him, but I don't know that I love him calling her like aggressive and desperate. He says the 3rd date was a makeout session, so Christine got what she wanted. They're out to dinner. It's really cute. They're in love. Back to Meri and Cody. They're just staring at each other, and it's awkward. He asks her what's going on, and she says that she's moving to Parowan. She says, "You made it clear you didn't want to work on a relationship with me." In a confessional, we get what I think is one of the worst things we've seen Cody say this season. "Well, don't blame me for not loving you. I was doing my duty. Blame yourself if I don't love you, okay? When I'm in love with a woman, it's her fault. So what happens if I'm not in love with a woman? Is that just my fault? If I'm mad about a woman, passionate, want to serve her, want to rub her feet, want to carry in her groceries, buy her jewelry, if I'm in love with a woman, I think that's her fault." This man has lost his goddamn mind. I think we need to check him for parasites or heavy metal poisoning. Why is he talking about love like it's something to be blamed for? In Meri's confessional, she says, "I'm not placing blame. I'm just acknowledging that he told me he's not interested in making our relationship work." Meri's simple comment of, "You made it clear you didn't want to work on this relationship," sent Cody into orbit, and all this man heard is, "It's your fault, Cody." Cody tells her, "You want me to own it so bad," and she says, "I'm not saying anything about owning it." He says, "I did say I could fake through it," and she said, "Yeah, I'm not interested in faking a relationship." Then he says, "That's not me saying I can't work on it. You're trying to make me own it." How is faking something working on it? If I walked into my kitchen right now and just pretended to make a loaf of bread, guess what's not going to be in my oven an hour from now? A loaf of bread. Meri says, "I didn't know we were fighting, honest, Cody. Just come out and say it. He says the marriage was on the rocks the entire time, and I knew that because I had such a better relationship with Janelle, Christine, and Robin. This man changes the narrative constantly to suit his needs. He's mentioned more than once about his good relationship with Christine this season, when last season it was terrible the entire time. He says he should have gotten out of the relationship 25 years ago. Correct. A broken clock is still right twice a day. In a confessional, Janelle says she doesn't know who this guy is. This is not the guy that they were all married to. Cody says he wishes Meri would have made her choice sooner, and she says, if I wanted to leave sooner, I would have. Cody says that the leadership in the church will not allow you to marry again if you keep discarding wives. But Cody hasn't participated in the religion or respected the leadership of the church for a long time, so why does that even matter? He's constantly bringing up these arbitrary rules that the religion had when he has not been following it for a long time. He says he didn't realize his relationships were terrible. He thought the problems he had with the first 3 wives were normal until he got into a deep emotional intimacy instead of and he starts like banging his fists together and says, some people call it F and F, and the first word is fight. That doesn't create intimacy. That just creates orgasms. Raise your hand if you think that Cody Brown has ever been able to get a woman across the finish line. No one? Okay, that's what I thought. Cody tells Meri it's not divorce that sucks, it's marrying the wrong person because you don't know. And Meri sighs and says, wow, okay. In a confessional, Meri says, what sucks is marrying the wrong person and not having the decency to tell her until 32 years later. Back to Christine and David's date, they're basically talking about how affectionate they are with each other. Christine says she always thought that Cody and Robin were soulmates, but it wasn't until recently that she realized why Cody always wanted to be with Robin. Now that she has a soulmate, she understands. Then she says if a polygamist finds his soulmate in one of his wives, I don't know what that looks like for the family. It looks like exactly what your family's going through right now, Christine. But David calls Christine too good to be true, and they're both a little scared at how quickly they've clicked, but they're both excited. Back to Meri and Cody. Meri tells the cameras that she is at peace with the situation, and Cody obviously isn't. He is saying things that are just very mean. And yes, he is, because he no longer has control of her, so he's just trying to hurt her in any way that he can. Cody tells Meri that he actually likes her now, and he's chuckling about it. He says, I didn't for like 6 years at all. And Meri says, it's been longer than that, be honest with yourself. So Meri tells Cody, I'm not your wife anymore. I'm not coming over for Christmas. And Cody says he has a wife who says Meri is still family and she needs to come over for Christmas. And Meri just stares back at Cody, and I can't really decipher her emotions. I'm thinking maybe like a little bit of heartbreak, but a little bit of like, are you kidding me? And then Cody says, I normally disregard her opinion. No, you don't, you silly goose. Meri agrees and laughs and says, no, you don't. Cody says, oh yes, I do. You don't know me if you think that I'm not a man story short,